Love you.
We love you. Oh, my Lord, that was great. I think it was Friedrich Nietzsche who said, and they saw them dancing and thought them mad because they couldn't hear the music, you know. So I've always liked that line that says, dance like nobody's watching. Right on, Kat. You're walking. Good morning.
Good morning.
Oh, it's so good to be back. I've missed you guys and gals and y'all, as we say, where I'm from. Hobbs, America. Anybody been there? I have missed you tremendously, but know that everywhere I go, I carry the peacefulness of this community, the friendship of this community. I talk about us constantly. I remind them what the Zia symbol stands for. So as we're singing this morning, I'm looking at that and being reminded it's good to be home where it's warm and no fires, thankfully. So there's this Arab proverb that it says, trust in God, but tie your camel. Did you hear that? Trust in God, but tie your camel. What do you think they're talking about there? Did you brush your teeth this morning? Yes.
Yeah, I did. I flossed.
And flossed? Way ahead of me, man. Now, why? Okay, who else brushed their teeth? Let's just have a show of hands. Yeah, I did too. I brushed them all. Up and down, side to side, rinse, rinse, rinse for 2 minutes, right? So why did we brush our teeth? Good breath. Keep them in our mouth. I like that one. Prevention, right. So we brush our teeth for prevention, for protection. So we're talking about safety this month, about safety in love. And part of feeling safe is feeling protected. So say that you're lying in bed and it's morning time and you set your clock to get up at a certain time because you don't want to oversleep because oversleeping is not necessarily good. So you might get up and you might meditate, and you're meditating so that you can have a sense of practice, a sense of unity, a sense of security. Then you get up and you do your cleaning up as you do. You're going to brush your teeth, you're going to floss, you're going to do mouthwash, and you're going to go into your kitchen maybe. You're going to make some coffee. You're only going to have 1 cup because 2 cups might be bad for your heart, as you recently read. You might have some oatmeal, but only the non-GMO organic oatmeal. Now, why do you eat oatmeal? Well, because it's good for your heart, right? To protect your heart. So then you sit down with that little weekly thing of your pills. Like today's Sunday, okay, I'm going to take my fish pill. I'm going to take my turmeric. I'm going to take my vitamin C, my vitamin D, my ginger, my blah, 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 yada, yada, yada. You might take your blood pressure medication. You might take your blood thinners. You might take your prophylactics for whatever you might be going through. And that's just breakfast. I mean, that's just sitting down to breakfast, you know. So you're gonna turn on your computer. You can look at it. You can enter your password, okay, right? Because your password is what? Protecting you from something else. And you're going to go through these little processes, and you're going to go through your filters on Google because you don't want it to filter to let something through that you might not want to experience or see. So we have filters on there. We have password protection. Some of us have encryption. So you go onto Facebook and you let everyone know that you're awake. It's 7 o'clock. I'm awake, everyone. You know, I didn't sleep too late. I'm not lazy. So, you know. And that's just in the morning, okay? So say you want to go for a walk. So you're going for a walk. So you go to your door. You unlock your door. Then you think, oh, man, I forgot my sunscreen. So you have to go back and you put on 50, right? At least 50 because anything else isn't very protective. You put on your giant wide brim hat that I've seen, those big straw hats. I love those. Long sleeve shirts, sun clothing, long sleeve pants. You get my point. Yada, yada, yada. We're obsessed with protection and safety in our culture and in our society. When I'm going out hiking, you know, I'm unlocking my door, then I turn around and I lock it back. I go out to my car, I unlock, tick, tick, tick. I unlock that, then I get my stick that I take with me because there might be snakes. You know, then I'm wearing my boots to protect me from everything in the desert, pinches. I mean, it pokes, stabs, and grabs, as everybody knows. Then I'm walking along, and I see a dog coming, so I move to the side because I don't want to get bit by the dog. So everything I'm doing with this conscious of Am I protected? Am I safe? These are all the external qualities of safety and protection. You know, we're the most helpless creatures on this planet. I mean, we may think we're the biggest and baddest, but, you know, when you think about it, it takes us 17 years to get out of the house, you know, on our own. 23. In some cases, 43. And they bring their video console back with them. We all know about that. I forgot what that's called. It's like the return nesting or whatever when the people go back. So we have a long gestation period. Humans are born without any protection at all. So what do? We cry and we scream, protect me, I need protection. So we're coddled and we're wiped and we're bathed and we're protected and we're made warm and then we're fed all day. The whole cycle starts all over again. We're the only species that needs that much nurturing and coddling and education. And it takes a really long time to get through all of that. And we aren't born with claws. I mean, like if you watch those little fawns in the woods, the little Bambi creatures, within maybe a couple of days, they can outrun a coyote if they need to. That's pretty awesome. You know, we aren't at that level yet. We don't have any hair anymore, hardly. So we have to have clothing. In other words, we need a lot of protection. We need a lot of security. So when we're children and we figure out that our security, our safety, all of our needs are reliant on these adults that are around us, these big things that talk funny, goo goo ga ga ga, that kind of thing. And so they talk funny, and we realize that if we do something that makes them happy, we get rewarded. If we do something that doesn't, we get punished. That's setting up for this lifetime of reward and punishment. And you grow up a little bit and you learn about conditional love. You learn about unconditional love. I feel that learning about unconditional love is when you test those people who love you unconditionally to see how far you can get away with that unconditional love. Not that I ever did that. I was a perfect child. So, so when we talk about safety, when we talk about the protection, there are two aspects here that we're talking about. One is the physical aspect. Do we feel safe? Do we feel secure? The other is, of course, the main crux of what we're here to talk about and learn about and reaffirm, is the spiritual feeling of safety, the spiritual aspect of safety. That's why the second part of our theme is to trust in God. And Bonnie in her message spoke about the divine guidance, which is beautiful. She had that great story that I really loved of the guy the prisoner for all those years that kept pushing against that prison door and saying, if only I could get out. He didn't realize all he had to do was pull it, because it was never locked. And that goes to the point of surrender and the other big word in that, which is trust. We're so obsessed with safety. Just going to riff on this just a little bit more. Safety. New York City, they banned big drinks. They banned big soft drinks. I think that they just thought that, I don't know what they thought, but that if they're not there, people aren't going to drink them, so let's ban them. They also put food labels and everything. It was New York City who started the whole food label thing. So now when you go into a restaurant, which I actually kind of like, because you look at it, you see how many grams of protein, how many grams of fat, how much of it is saturated, how much is trans fat, how much is sugar, how much is carbohydrates, how much is simple sugars, that kind of thing. So constantly we're being reminded that, I shouldn't use the word reminded. It seems like we're being reminded that we're not quite smart enough to figure out how to take care of ourselves, but we are. Cities like Washington, D.C. have banned handheld phones while driving, even though no data actually exists that there's a difference between the handheld and the non-handheld devices. I travel constantly, as some of you do too. And what I've noticed is when I'm driving around on the highway and somebody's driving kind of funny, I know without a doubt I'm going to pass them, and I look over, they have their phone right here, or their book, their Kindle right here, or a newspaper. I've even seen people with laptops, trying to do that. I'm thinking, you can't protect yourself against something like that. For a while in this country, we had the 55 mile an hour per hour. Whew, I'm so glad that's over. My gosh. There are some states I go through where it is 55 still, and you could take a nap. You seriously could. Just take a nap and just drive on autopilot. So Montana, whenever that 55 mile per hour thing finally went away, they took all of their road signs. They took their miles per hour signs off the highway, and now people can drive whatever the speed that they want to. And guess what they found out? There were no more accidents. There was an equilibrium that happened. The people that felt that they could drive fast drove fast. The other people didn't. I've driven through there, and it's crazy. It's just, hang on for dear life. It's kind of exciting. And so there are some cities that have banned smoking on the sidewalks. Some of them are considering banning smoking in the cars if there's an 18-year-old present or someone younger than 18-year-olds. These are all just examples that I'm trying to put out there of ways that we're protecting ourselves, ways that safety is being forced. You can't get into your car without that ding, 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 the reminder you're supposed to put your seatbelt on. And there's the big term that people use, safety first. So what does that mean, safety first? As I transition to this next part, let me ask you, do you feel safe now? Now, do you feel protected? No, fewer people. What's making you feel safe now? God, awesome. What's making you feel safe? Same, God. Fantastic. Well, we're a unique group. And that's good that we are, because when the people in Charleston, when they went down to have their Bible study and their prayer meeting, they felt safe too. They felt trusted. They put their faith in God and a higher power. Dylan Roof, that fella, came in and joined them, and he sat with them for 45 minutes in the prayer meeting, and he ended up shooting 9 of them and killing 9 of them. They felt safe. But here's the thing. They went to his trial, and they forgave him. They, one by one, the survivors, the loved ones of the people who he hurt, said, I forgive you, and God forgives you, and I forgive you. That was so monumentous, and if you've never seen that, I would urge you just to see how powerful that is. I was in Chicago August, the first weekend of August. I can't remember what the actual dates are now, but I was playing at the World of Fairies Festival. Fantastic little place, little winged things, around this beautiful on the Fox River with these oak trees. And everybody dresses up, and it is a magical place. People are happy, nothing but smiles, and I'm just there playing my music, and I'm happy too. There's big bubbles going all everywhere. And then I went that night and played in downtown Chicago at a place called Tribal Stomp. And there were all these people drumming. The energy was high. These beautiful, beautiful women were dancing while I'm playing my music, and it was phenomenal. But it turns out that same weekend, there was also Lollapalooza that was going on downtown Chicago. And the guy who committed the shootings in Las Vegas recently, he had booked a hotel room on one of those towers. He had planned to that as a possible target. And so that stopped me cold in my tracks. I thought, my gosh, I can't imagine if something like that happened at the World of Fairies Festival, where there's all these little kids and just beautiful, beautiful people. And I entertained that thought for just a second, because not only did I know that wasn't even a possibility, it just wasn't even vibrating in that consciousness at some level, but I also knew that somehow even that would be endured, even that would be put into put into a spiritual context, and I'm going to take you through this. When we hear about all of these tragedies, we don't feel safe anymore. We think, what am I going to do? How am I going to protect myself? How am I going to protect my loved ones? It's almost unreasonable to think that we can protect ourselves at a public place like that on a physical level. So we just hear story and story about how that is fear-based, that we need to be protected, that we need to be afraid, and that fear, as we know, as enlightened people, as awake people, that fear isn't real. Only love is real, and if you know what that means, only love is the constant, only love is real. Anything unlike love, like Williamson says, doesn't exist. Because where does fear happen? Well, fear happens in the mind. Fear happens, you're thinking of something that's going to happen. Fear exists in the future, or it exists in the past, in the sense of something happened back then, it could happen again. So fear is not existing anywhere near where we are now. Fear likes to come up and mess with the ego and say you're a limited being. You know, you're not protected. You aren't safe. Love is the opposite of that. Love equals God in my mind and in many people's minds. So what you don't hear so much is, Bonnie made a reference a couple of weeks ago to, I'll paraphrase, that if you look deep enough in any situation, even a tragedy like that, you will find love. You'll find where love transcended, love shone. For instance, in Las Vegas. So there was a bartender. Her name was Heather Guzzi, 43-year-old bartender. She was working near that festival when that craziness started to happen. And so this 23-year-old guy, Jordan Mickeldoon, was brought over to her on this makeshift stretcher that they'd made out of this ladder. And they said, he's been really hurt. And she said, okay, well, I'm going to stay with him. So she stayed with him, and she held his hand, and she kept telling him over and over, you're loved, you're loved, you're loved. And she felt his hand squeeze hers, and then he let go. And he transitioned, and he left that body, that hurt body. And she stayed there with him, and as soon as that happened, his phone rang. Now, just before that, she had been on his Facebook, on his phone, saying, I am here with this guy. And they said, his name is Jordan Mickeldoon. So she got a magic marker and she wrote it on his arm. And then his phone rang just after he passed. And it was his girlfriend. And she said, we've been separated. Who is this? And she said, I'm Heather Guzzi. I am with him now. And she said, tell me what happened. Tell me the absolute truth of what happened. So she told him, and she said, are you sure he's the love of my life? And she said, yes, I'm sorry. And so then she said, will you call his mother? And so she called his mother, told her the same thing. And she did that, and she told his mother, she said, I promise you I'm not going to leave him. So she stayed there until 3:30 that morning for over 5 hours, holding his hand, telling him that he was loved. And there were accounts and accounts and accounts of those experiences in Las Vegas. So there is love there, and man, sometimes it's really hard, to find out where is the love. What do I latch on to? Last time I was here, I told you I did a concert up in Joplin, Missouri, and during their tornado in 2001, that killed so many people, it destroyed half of the town. I mean, wiped it out to nothingness. Well, there were all these accounts of kids saying the butterfly people took Grandpa. The butterfly people took to my mother, or the butterfly people came and put their wings over me, and they prevented me from being hurt. And so people kept saying, what are you talking about? And they said, maybe they're talking about angels. And they said, no. So they started drawing all these butterfly people. Over and over the stories of the butterfly people who had saved people during that tornado. So now they have a huge mural down there. And so I went down with my friend and I played my flute down at that mural. And I was just so touched and moved by not only by their resiliency, but how open that they were. And so that's what they focused on in that tragedy, how people rose above, how they connected with God, with their higher selves, with whoever that is that keeps protecting us on a daily basis. Twice on my last tour, I was almost run off the road. And I was videotaping them as they were trying to run me off the road. But I didn't worry. I wasn't afraid in the least. I was concerned. I didn't want to hurt my car, But I wasn't afraid at all. I said, take over, God. Take over. Every single time, take over, God. And I wasn't afraid. I just said, hey, it's okay. If this is my time, I've made some good music. I've had some good food. I'm okay. Everything's gonna be fine. And it was my reliancy on this spiritual practice, on science of mind, on religious science that has given me that core of knowing that I'm infinite. I don't mean this part. This part will go away. That's fine. I'm infinite. There's a place in me that's never been hurt. It's never been afraid. Never been fearful. It's within all of us. It's that beautiful light and that is always glowing. That it's that flickering flame that's always there. So countless stories of people rising up to find love in every situation, to trust that they are protected, that they are safe. And the part of being safety and being in love equals safety, is knowing that you are protected, you are cared for. And it's not a myth. It's something very real. I think, Bonnie, you read something by James Dillett Freeman last couple weeks ago? Okay. Well, there's a great prayer for protection. Do you guys know about this? Yeah, they use it a lot in unity. Well, the prayer for protection was more or less written by James Dillett Freeman. And one of the interesting things about this, it's one of the 2 Freeman poems carried to the moon in 1969 by Buzz Aldrin. He carried that onto the moon. He also carried a copy with him of his other poem, which is called I Am There. And that poem was left on the moon by James B. Irwin. So that's kind of cool. When the astronauts were looking at the Earth from space, they said they felt everyone's love. They felt the prayers. They literally felt them. How cool is that? So I'm going to read you this. And you can find it just by Googling the prayer for protection, James Dillett Freeman. These words are just beautiful. The light of God surrounds me. The love of God enfolds me. The power of God protects me. The presence of God watches over me. The mind of God guides me. The life of God flows through me. The laws of God direct me. The power of God abides within me. The joy of God uplifts me. The strength of God renews me. The beauty of God inspires me, and wherever I go, God is. Did you hear that? That's pretty cool. Wherever I go, God is. And that's certainly the way that I think too, in every situation. So hang on to this sense of protection and safety. And the way that you can do it is any time that you need to, just dial into that. Like dial in, act like it's on your phone, whatever you need to do. You're safe the moment you feel safe. You're protected the moment you know you're protected, but it requires your participation. And it requires for you to be aware of it. I have this thing that I do every single morning. I say, may the infinite spirit that is God bless everyone unconditionally, whatever their needs may be today. It's my inoculant. That's the way I look at it as. And that was, the man who came up that was James Waddle, way back 20s of last century. There's also the love and kindness meditation that I do when I'm having trouble with somebody. I say, may you live in safety. May you be happy. May you be healthy. May you live with ease. You can turn that within onto yourself too. Anytime you have an issue with someone, you can do that. And I'm going to leave you with a beautiful practice. This is called, what is it called? There we go. Well, it's essentially what I'll call it is returning to Buddha nature. Let's call it that. You know, a lot of us in life, there's one issue, one trauma, one thing that has influenced everything. And we've either carried that with us all this time or we've tried to transcend that. And that's been our dark night of the soul. That's been our clarion call to wake up, to turn yourself over to this higher power, let go of the shore and flow with that. So this is called the returning to the Buddha nature, and it's a great practice that I found really helpful. And it goes like this. Say you're having an issue at work or with your home or your community or with what you're being confronted with on the news. Anything that is the most difficult thing within your life, the most challenging thing within your life. This is what you do. You center yourself, you take some cleansing breaths, you go into that secret place of the Most High that we call. And you walk into this house, and in this house there's this room, and there are those people you have the most trouble with, that situation you have the most trouble with. You sit down, and you, as much as you can, visualize, imagine, hear it, whatever that you can do. Sit there and really feel. It's not easy, but feel those feelings. And when it starts to get too much, there's a knock at the door. And you're walking up to the door, and the person at the door is going to be the most compassionate, enlightened being that you know, okay? Whether that be Mother Mary, whether that be Gandhi, whether that be the Dalai Lama, whether it's the Buddha, whether it's Kuan Yin, the goddess of compassion, it doesn't matter. Someone that you really trust. And you go to the door and you say, hello. And they say, I want to trade places with you. I want you to stay here, and I'm going to come into your body and go into that room. So you say, okay, that sounds good. So they go into that room, and you follow them. And they sit there, and you watch how they deal with that situation. You watch what they say. You watch how they behave. You watch their body language. You watch their posture. You watch how they transmute that situation. However you need it to happen, let it play out. And then they will say again, excuse me, someone's at the door again. And so they're going to come to the door, and you're going to follow them. Then as they give you your body back, and as they come out, they're all luminous and everything, you know. They're going to reach under the robe and give you a gift, okay? This gift can be, I always think of the Lord of the Rings, you know, like Galadriel, where she's giving them all of these really cool gifts. And they give you a gift that's between you and them that you can use anytime you're in that situation. And then they reach over and they say, I can't tell you what I just said, but they tell you a secret that's going to be your mantra, like your in transcendental meditation. It's going to be your power words. And then they leave. And as they leave, you feel a sense of calm. You feel a sense of peace because you know that it's been taken care of. And remind yourself where that person came from, where that compassionate and enlightened being came from. It came from here. Always there, always ready for you to answer that knock on the door. And so it is. Thank you.